What's up, guys? What's up, the man, the voice, the fragrance? We're here with another creator from a collective that we talked to before, where we haven't talked to Mr. Dan Price before. Dan, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great, Alvin. How you doing tonight?
I'm I'm good now. Before we started, we were all talking about wrestling, so we've already been chopping it up. But before we get into Bigfoot Knows Karate, what prompted you to get into comics in the first place?
Oh man. Okay, now you're digging deep. This is the
Yeah.
deep cut here. So, okay, so my when I was a kid, this friend Carlos. Carlos is still my friend to this day. Carlos was a year older than me and was into comic books. And he said, "Come on, we're gonna go ride our bikes down to the stop and go and go get comic books." I said, "Okay," and that bastard took me down the dirty road of comics, and I've been stuck there ever since, man. Tell you what, it's I love that guy. He's amazing, and I thank him for this. But at the same time, damn you, Carlos, it's all your fault. Anyway, so no, man. I mean, I the comics when I was young. Once my dad saw I was reading comics, then he was like, okay, now we can do this together. And so my dad and I collected comics together, and he was more of a collector. He liked bagging and the boarding and the investing and putting them away. And he was a banker, so he used to like make me keep a ledger of all my comics. I mean, like, what are these people doing to me? I just want to read them and draw them. That's all I want to do. And but I loved collecting comics with my dad. It was great. It really was one of the happiest times of our relationship. And when I draw comics or a new one, I have a new one come out. I just go, man, I wish you could have saw this. So, but and so that got me into it. But in 1992, I'm sure you heard of a little company called Image.
Yes.
They happened, and I was reading comics, and when I realized that you could make your own comics with your own characters and sell them, and people will buy them, that was a game changer to me because I was always drawing and I was always into comics, but I never really cared about drawing Spider-Man or Wolverine or any of that stuff. I liked it. I read it. Don't get me wrong, but that was not my goal. Was never to draw the X-Men. I mean, it was like I just liked drawing when I was young, and then when I realized that Todd McFarlane was making Spawn and Rob Liefeld was making Youngblood, and all these other people were doing all their stuff, and it was theirs. Sold, hooked in, done. So like I hooked up with this company in Houston in 1993. They were called Space City Comics, and they were a small little label out of in the neighborhood that I had grown up in for the first 10 years of my life. So I would like drive over there, and it was a comic book store, and they had a studio in the back of the store. Okay. And so they were making comics. This is 1993, man. Like people were actually making their own books. That's dope. I'm in. I'm sold. I'm hooked. And so I hung out there, like just learning from all these adults who were like, it was across the street from NASA. So literally these guys were like NASA engineers and, were like, drove trucks or whatever. They were all adults. I mean, they were all like adults. And I'm like this kid hanging out there like erasing pages for them and filling in the blacks on pages for them, or like coloring with Dr. Martin's inks or markers, to color in color in covers and stuff. And so I was doing that. I'm sorry, you asked me a really big question.
No, this is wonderful.
I was doing that, and that was senior year of high school. And so freshman year of college, they said to me, okay, you can have your own book. And I was like, I was so excited, right? I was going to draw my own book. And then something happened. I was at college away from all of this, so I don't know what the exact mishigas was, all the hullabaloo was, but the publisher just kind of dissipated. I heard later on there were things, and I mean, only a couple of years ago, I bumped into some of these guys at a con when I was doing Bigfoot Knows Karate. They were like, hey, and I'm like, we're all like, because we hadn't seen each other since I was 17. You know what I mean? So it was really cool. And, but yeah, so I did all that. The company went out of business. And so I was 18 years old at the time. So by the time I made my first comic, I was 30. I just walked away from it all and went to college and career and all that stuff. And I decided in like 2006, I said, I want to make a comic book. It's time. I'm due. I mean, like I was supposed to do this years ago. What have I been doing with my life? You know what I mean? And so I made my very first comic, and it was called Latex Avenger. And Latex Avenger, he had a sidekick, spermicidal foam lad, and together they repelled crime 99.9% of the time. And it was like Family Guy on steroids turned up to 11. Okay, you had like this kaiju pot monster that sounded like Barry White named Manibus, and you had a Kosher the pig who was like, well, he was a pig, smoke, and he was awesome. I loved Kosher. And my grandparents were characters in the book. There was Sexy Nurse America, who was our Wonder Woman, you know what I mean? And I don't know, it was just let the expletives fly. It was crazy. It was just wild book. I had a lot of fun with it. But I did that for years. I did a couple other titles, one youth project for the Stan Lee Foundation, another kind of PG-13 sci-fi thing that I did that was similar to Latex Avenger, but toned down because I was for a publisher. And then I got out of the game, man. I got out of the game for a while. I got married. My stepkids were young, and I was raising kids. And then then they had this little pandemic a few years ago that everybody was locked at home, right? And that sucked. And for a multitude of reasons, for all the lost people we lost and all the hard times, that was just the pits. Right. But you got to look at your positives out of a bad situation. And the positive of that happened was I got back into comics. Okay. It was during that time. I had been doodling the BIGFOOT Knows Karate lead on Instagram for since 2017, 2018, formulating a little plan. But it was the pandemic when my wife said, well, hey, why don't you make a comic again? Ooh, that was a big mistake on her part, man, because she didn't know what that entailed. She did not know. Now here we are today, as I sit in a hotel room in South Texas somewhere, waiting to go to a Comic-Con tomorrow for the, this will be, I have like 12 of these this year. She had no idea what she said, let's go make comics again. So, long answer to your question. She's the best. Betty, you're the best. She's gone. She's at home, but she's amazing. I love her. So, that was a long answer to your question. Sorry.
No. There's no such thing as a long answer. You answered what needs to be answered. So that's yeah. You brought up something that I don't think that obviously we're similar in age based on what you're saying. While there were independent comics before, their image and the creation of image, and not just the creation, but the longevity of image and what it stands for.
Yeah.
We kind of knew back then, and I think it gave all of us a creative spark. So I don't think you didn't read comics back then and not draw it, no matter how good or bad you were. You drew, you created your own comics. And a lot of that was because of image. You drew your Spider-Man and whatnot, but at that time, so many guys I knew, we were drawing our own stuff. We were reading Spawn. We were looking at Larson and how he did Savage Dragon and what those guys were very much our idols because they did what they did. You had indie books before. You had indie imprints. You had
you had Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and stuff like that. Yeah. But it was different. Different. Image was different.
Yeah.
I mean,
it really was.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No. What you say is right. It was different. It was a big deal, and I can't say that about, especially back then, any other indie publisher. Dark Horse was around, but even then, Dark Horse was still more known for, Star Wars stuff and the other stuff. And I think
Concrete.
I feel I think Brian's Next Men came out maybe around the same time. That might have been a bit later, 95 or so.
John Byrne's Next Men.
Yeah, John Byrne's Next Men. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know that was around that time, And then even before then, you had like the stuff that Marvel put on Epic. You had Starlin's what was his character? Dread Star. I
Red
remember
Star,
that, and
yeah.
got a lot of those
There,
indie stuff.
there was Coyote as well,
Yeah,
was out there and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, but no, Malibu was just kind of dipping its toes in the water and things. But no, I mean, like Badger and stuff like that. But
yeah,
no, Image was different. Like there was the black and white explosion in the late in the '80s, right, of independent comics that was huge.
right.
But Image was rock star level shit.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like it was. I mean, when Eazy-E shows up at Rob Liefeld's signing, that
exactly.
that's a different story. That's a different level. You've broken through in a whole other way where comic books is part of the zeitgeist in a whole indie comics. You know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
it's so cool to me. I mean, I was reminded of the Easy thing here recently because one of the guys at Homebrew, Chris Saloff,
Mhm.
went over to Golden Apple to the Rob Liefeld signing, and Rob Liefeld had posted a thing about him with Easy, and I was like, I forgot all about
Yeah,
that,
I
dude. That's
follow
so
Rob
cool.
on Twitter, so I saw that recently as well. Yeah, and I totally
Yeah,
forgot about that as well.
yeah. I mean, how cool is that? To me,
Yeah.
that's the shit. Yeah, no, I mean, it was. I remember going to go at a. Cause I'm from Texas, you know, Pat. And I remember going to a convention in high school, and Dan Frago was the guest at the convention. And this was like those old hotel conventions where it was all one big ballroom with the tables set up, and they all had all their long boxes out, and then like the one, maybe two guests they had there, you know, that was it. And Fraga did a panel, and it was just like, this is like 1993, you know what I mean? And he did a panel, and you would not believe the amount of high schoolers who were just there. Because like you go to a comic convention, a lot of the time, even back then, there's a lot of older folks, you
Did
know
he
what I
draw up a
mean? Like
grade?
buying back. What's
Frega, did he draw up a grade? I'm trying to remember which book he
he
drew.
drew Bloodstrike.
Bloodstrike,
He,
that's what it
he
was. Yeah,
yeah, he drew
yeah.
Bloodstrike. Yeah, and he did, and he gave us he did a panel, and that panel was so there's so many people who were standing room only, and it was all in one big ballroom. So like and nobody's shopping because they're all sitting there listening, just hanging on every word that they say. This guy's a kid. I mean, seriously, he's like 3 years older than I was. You know what
Right.
I mean? And he was probably driving a Maserati or something like that, and all that fat Enigma they're putting out. You know
Right.
what I mean? But I know they were getting fat royalties back then, and you know, and good for them. Make yours where you can get it. You know, but it's like it's just a different level. It was just a different level of enthusiasm when the image popped, and for me now, like when I look at what we're doing with Homebrewed, you know, I mean, because you know, I mean, it's Chris Saloff from Crit and Drew Lenhart from Caspian Porter and Dennis Valencia from Celestial Knight and myself from Bigfoot Knows Karate. We've all been doing this for a while. I mean, look, we're not Rob Liefeld, Jim Valentino, Jim Lee, you know, all those guys. We're nothing like that. But it's cool to see what for me what's neat is watching all of us come from nothing, you know what I mean, or
Mhm.
not nothing, because I mean I've been doing this for a while, Drew had been doing this for a while, but we all met up on Instagram in like 2020, 2021, and everybody was kind of getting their starting, getting started up. Drew had been in it for a while, I'd been taking a break and was just starting in again, and it was a whole different world because social media was completely different and Kickstarter was off and running. It was a whole different thing. And I'm getting to watch all these guys grow into their books and into themselves as writers, artists, creators, whatever they are in that role. And they can and everybody's kicked ass and taken names on Kickstarter and found a following and all that. And now we're really getting to take all of the tools that the tools and notes and shit that we've collected over the last few years and bring it all together to build this one publishing label. And so like I said, we're not Image Comics, but man, there's that little bit in you that's like finding something awesome. You know what I mean? And it's just like, just completely nerding out. This little child inside of me is like, the punk rockers and me like, but I'm excited all at the same time. It's just great.
I would say don't discount yourself when you put it that way.
Yeah,
There are a bunch of little Image comics all over the country. And I talked to Chris
sure.
last year, and he told me about the story of Crit and how That came out, and also about his own evolution and how much better he's gotten, since he started
Yeah.
making things.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm
He's
thinking of
blown.
it,
He's I mean, just to say this real quick. I've watched this guy's artwork just go, just like it's exponentially better every issue. And not that the last issue was bad. You know what I
right?
mean? Like just every issue's getting better. It's so cool to watch that happen. Sorry,
And
go
this
ahead.
one of the things. No, that's a great point though. One of the things that I've noticed, and even just talking to you, and the passion is there, and I think that's what Image really represents. Like, yeah, those guys like the highest profile from Marvel and left, but they had a passion for what they wanted to do. And I don't think that is something that was before then really conveyed in the general public. Comic books were comic books. It was driven by the characters. It wasn't driven by the
Right.
creators. And with Image, that was really your first foray into a creator driven sort of company and creator driven properties. Not just that they hadn't been, but you saw the passion of these guys and what they were doing. And I don't think, and again, everything happened perfect soon. 92, a lot more media. It was a very different time, especially compared to now. And it was
Yeah.
just, that was like the perfect storm for everything to really happen when it came to comics and Image.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. That was the perfect time. It was the perfect place. Everything was right on the money. Because if you take it and fast forward maybe 5 years, 10 years, video games.
Yeah.
It changed the
And
game. I mean, seriously, when you got to be the character, why read the character? You know what I mean? It just changed everything up in such a different way. Home consoles got good. Home computers could handle a really good game. You know, now, I mean, and now it's like everything's manga. You know what I mean? Which is, great. Hey, at least people are reading.
yeah,
I mean, that's my attitude. But it's like, so American comics, like Western comics, whatever you want to call them, they got to find their foot again.
yeah,
And us as creators, my attitude personally is, well, hey, yes, be enthusiastic about what you're doing. If you're not enthusiastic about it, who's going to be? Number one. And I believe in what we're doing. I believe in Bigfoot Knows Karate. I believe in what the other guys are doing with their books. I mean, we wouldn't be doing this if we didn't have, good, faith in what the other ones are doing. But it's our jobs to find new audiences. It is our jobs to introduce people to these characters, to this intellectual property, whatever
yes,
mindset you want to use for it. That is my job. Come up with something cool enough to get people to turn their head. You know what I mean? Because that's in the end of the day, we're fighting an uphill battle. I mean, I'm going to this Comic Con this weekend, and like the headliner is a comedian. Okay, I mean, like seriously, this is not. It's not even a movie actor. It's a comedian. Like they're not coming for comics. They're
right,
coming for other things. It is my job to make sure that everybody who walks by my table has the words Bigfoot knows karate blazoned into their head by the time they
right,
leave. You know what I mean? I have to do that. Otherwise, I drove 400 miles there and 400 miles back for nothing. You know what I mean? Or 300 miles or whatever I drove to get here today. It was ridiculous. It was like 5 hours. It was really crazy. But that, you know what I mean? But that's my job. I've got to, it's my job to get people to be excited about this book. And because if I can get enough people excited about this, Eldon, then we can go take it to the next level.
right,
I was reading the thing that Drew sent us today about it only takes 1,000 fans. And it takes 1,000 fans basically to find like hardcore fans to get you where you need to go in terms of jumping to the next level and finding a group of people who will appreciate what it is you're doing, will back it and support it and that sort of thing.
right,
Well, I'm looking for my 1,000. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm looking for my first strong 1,000 that'll help us get to the next level because I want to see this get to animation
right.
more than anything else. I love making comic books. I mean, I love, Bigfoot Knows Karate. I love our next book we have coming up, Bigfoot Knows Karate God Killer, coming up later this year. I mean, all these things are so badass. But wouldn't it be cool to watch it animated? Like all the manga fans want to see the animes, you know what I mean? Like all the Marvel fans want to see the movies. I'd like to see Benny from Bigfoot Knows Karate, punt kick somebody across the screen. That'd be pretty cool. So, gotta get them excited, right?
Right. All right. So with that, tell us about Bigfoot Knows Karate.
Sure. Okay, so it's I can say it the way I normally say it. I'm gonna try and say it differently so it doesn't sound the same to me all the time. But
Okay.
it's like, okay, no, I'll just say it the way I say it because that's the way I know how to do it. It's the story of a gentle yet deadly cryptid warrior who lives in a world where anyone can be the hunter and anyone can be the prey at any given time. In the first issue, he fights Kung Fu Thulu in the ultimate monster showdown. So think Godzilla versus Kong meets Kill Bill with a twist. The premise of the comic, like how it came to be, was originally it was supposed to be part of Latex Avenger. It was supposed to be a comedy comic that was tied into the guy with the rubber on his head fighting crime. And the story was stupid. Oh, it was so bad. This Bigfoot Knows Karate story was so bad. And so I shelved it. This was like 2015. And I just shelved it, put it away. I just started writing and it was terrible. And I came back to it in like 2017 and started drawing him again. And he had these gaunt eyes and had this pensive face. And I was like, if you were the only one of your kind, the only one of your species, and nobody knew you existed and nobody knew you cared, what would that do to you and your psyche? P.S. You happen to be a Bigfoot and you know karate. You know what I mean? And that was like kind of like the premise behind it is like, this is this isolated warrior. Sorry, bro.
No, good. I told you it's been a long day.
I understand completely, man. I get it. I've been up since 5, so I'm with you. This isolated warrior who is complete. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, Cthulhu shows up and is trying to attack him. Right. Yeah, I'll send you issue 1. I'll send you a digital. You got to check this out. Okay. And so like he's meditating and then he gets pulled to the other side of another dimension where he's given this message by a harbinger, and all of a sudden this Kung Fu Thulu is just jumping out of the water at him. He has this big, huge battle, and at the end of the first issue, there's this monster twist. Okay, and I say that because it takes us into where the book is really going, and it's a story of agency. It's a story of this character who is trying to find himself in a world where it's either he's completely isolated or surrounded by enemies. What's better? What's worse? To be completely alone or to be like Serpigo, you got to have an eye behind your back at all times. You know what I mean? Right. It's a tough situation. And so by this point in chapter 3, when we're starting up in chapter 3, we pick up into the story. Benny, our Bigfoot, we call him Benny. You find that out in the story, but he's on the run, and he's got this punk rock girl named Iris with him and a white bunny who's been hanging out with him since the beginning of the issue. And it's Benny and his bunny, man. And this bunny, and they're on the run. That they're trying to get away from this mysterious cabal that's basically running the world's cryptids, and it controls the monsters of the world. And so it's to a nefarious end that I will not get into because it's, I don't want to ruin anything for anybody. In fact, the thing about it is we've been building question after question after question for the first couple of issues. To those who've been reading with us from the beginning, congratulations. You're going to get some questions answered this issue, and it's going to be all right. Going to be happy about it. You're going to be like, thank you, Dan. You answered none of the questions I had, but you gave me answers. That's how it's going to go. But we answer a lot of questions this issue. And so this is actually our 4th book, despite being chapter 3, because we also did a book called Bigfoot Knows Karate Inagon, and that was a side story one-shot book that we did between books 2 and 3. And so all of this and the one shot ties into the main storyline in its way, despite the fact that that one takes place in feudal Japan hundreds of years before. There's always tie into the main storyline some way or somehow. So I don't know if I really answered your question, but I feel like I've talked a lot.
You did.
So okay, good.
So you said this was book 4. So is book 4, is that about to be out on Kickstarter?
Yeah, it's chapter 3, but it's the
Chapter
fourth book.
3.
Yeah, it's going to hit Kickstarter. Yeah, it's going to chapter 3, and it's going to hit May 14th. We go live on Kickstarter. So currently, right now, we're at like 120 something notifications. Thank you, everybody, for getting behind the book. I appreciate that. We're going to do a live launch party for the book on May 14th, 7 p.m. Central Time. We're going to do a live launch party on Instagram. There'll be, and you will also be able to see other members of the Homebrew team, including Chris, Drew, and Dennis, who will be hanging out that night, along with a ton of other creators, podcasters, show people, convention folks, whoever wants to jump into the live that night. And Eldon, I recommend, if you'd like to jump in with us on Instagram, man, come and hang out, promote your show that night on the live. I'd love to have you there, man. Yeah, so we're going to be doing that, and so that'll be a lot of fun. But we've got Chris's launch on the April 30th first. So if y'all are checking this out, Crit goes live on April 30th with Crit 8 on Kickstarter, and then my book on May 14th with Casey Allen, my co-writer, who's amazing. And then June 21st, we have Celestial Knight versus Caspian Porter. So we got 3 campaigns, boom, 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 within month back, like 2 weeks apart from each other or something like that. It's crazy. Yeah,
that's a lot, but different books, different audiences, so things will work out.
Now, here's something. We were talking about Image. Okay, so I want to tell you this. Okay, I think you might like this. You remember Image Zero? How you had to get the coupons out the back of the books?
Yeah, I remember.
Mail them all in. Yeah. Okay, so guess what we're doing? Okay, and when you back Crit 8, you're gonna get a blue coupon. Okay, that has 3-digit code on it. When you back Bigfoot Knows Karate 3, you're gonna get a pink coupon that has 3-digit code on it. And then if you back CK versus CP, you're gonna get the 3rd coupon with a 3-digit code on it.
Okay.
You take those 3 coupons. Okay, you go to our website and you dial in all 9 digits of that coupon code on there, and you will get you can buy a holofoiled homebrewed Zero that we're doing. Okay.
Oh, wow.
Ripped straight from the pages of Image Zero. We decided to steal the concept, and it's going to be Chris has got a story, I've got a story, Drew, Dennis, and then our friend Mo Lubasan is also putting in a story. So it's going to be 5 stories, completely original stuff based on the characters that you already know, and they're it'll be Bigfoot Knows Karate, Crit, Celestial Knight, all that, and then they'll get and then the story by Mo, and it's going to be awesome. I mean, it's going to be a holofoil cover. It's completely exclusive to homebrewedcomics.com. So, and if you are interested, if anybody's watching this, go to homebrewedcomics.com and you can find notification buttons for all these campaigns I mentioned. So just that. But back all 3 books and you can get yourself a homebrewed Zero with all new content. It's going to be dope. I'm excited as shit about that.
That's awesome, man. Again, Image just, really fuels a lot of what we do now, and we don't even realize it at times.
Oh yeah. Well, look, man. I mean, not that I'm not either, because I obviously you can tell I'm a total Image mark. But yeah, no, Chris, Drew, Dennis. Oh, they're just as bad as I am, if not worse. I mean, yeah, we're all like, when it comes to Image, because it's what got you into it. It's what got me excited about it. Look, I mean, not to crap on them. I mean, these are not Alan Moore deep stories. This was a lot of action and cool poses and stuff like that. We grow and morph differently as artists and writers and stuff. I mean, for me, my story is it's different. It's different work from what Image is doing, but the enthusiasm is so very much there. that make any sense? I don't think that made any sense, but I think we got
No,
it.
that made perfect sense to me. I got it. And I think a lot of everybody out there will get it too.
Y'all understood what I meant. Anyway, so cool.
We understood. So
Cool.
you told us homebrewcomics.com. Where else can we find more about Bigfoot Knows Karate?
Sure. You can find Bigfoot Knows Karate can be found at bigfootknowskarate.com, homebrewedcomics.com. You can go to Global Comics, Drive-Through Comics, and get digital copies of the books there. Instagram, you check me out at Danomite139. That's like a great place to learn about Bigfoot Knows Karate, because that's my home. That's my home base. That's my home social media. I didn't have what it takes to Twitter. That's a tough racket over there, man. It is. It's always been a tough racket over there. That's a hard place to be. So I'm fair ups to all of y'all who do it, because I can't, like for me, like when I go to Instagram, it's such a kumbaya kind of moment.
I agree.
There. Everybody's just like, hey man, we're making comics together, and and everybody's like singing and hugging, and it's crazy. And then you go over to Twitter, and everybody's like, fire out of their eyes and just bad attitudes, and I'm like, we don't do that anymore. But that's the best place to find me. BigfootKnowsKarate.com. There's links to everything over there. So, yeah.
And real quick, when does the Kickstarter start again?
Yeah, May 14th, 7 p.m. Central Time, we will be pushing the button live, and there will be a live launch party on Instagram. If you follow me at Danomite139, that's DANOMYTE139, you can follow me there, and you will get an alert when we go live with the party. So it's going to be a good time.
All right. Well, thank you, Dan. Appreciate you guys. Make sure you check out more of Bigfoot Knows Karate. Kickstarter's coming out soon. Homebrewcomics.com, BigfootKnowsKarate.com. Check them out, Dan. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. You guys stay tuned for more from Dan, Homebrew, and everybody else we interviewing here at WebsterStyle.com. Webster, thank you for your time. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your listening. And remember, stay safe out there. Be blessed.